In many ways, Black Mirror feels like our modern-day Oedipus Rex. You know, the Greek tragedy where title character Oedipus is given a prophecy that'll kill his father and marry his mother, which he obviously doesn't want to do, but in trying to avoid his destiny, actively fulfills it, leading him to gouge his own eyes out. Well, I get that same feeling with Black Mirror. Many of the episodes feel like prophetic tales that are warning us against what happens when you mix our flawed human nature with technology we may not be ready for. It's never inherently the technology's fault, as our actions are ultimately the cause of our own downfall. And if we don't heed the warning, we too will end up just like Oedipus, fulfilling a prophecy we set out to avoid. So let's take a look at Black Mirror Season 2, Episode 4, White Christmas. But before we begin, if you like my content, please like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel grow so I can continue making more. Now, back to the video.
Why are you here? No one ends up here without things going to total shit for them back out there.
I'm not going to recap the entire episode here, so if you haven't seen it, this is your official spoiler warning. But the episode is nearly a decade old at this point, so it's fair game. But in short, White Christmas follows our two main protagonists, Matthew and Joe, and the plot is split into 3 different parts. Part 1 is Matthew's backstory. This is where we're introduced to the world and one of the future technologies in this episode, the ZI, which is an augmented reality device that is implemented directly into the eyes of the user.
We all got Z eyes put in, right?
Which allows for enhanced capabilities like recording, live streaming your POV, and blocking someone. Blocking someone completely grays out anyone you block, making it impossible to hear or see the blocked person, even going as far as graying out images of said person, and becomes a major catalyst for both Matt and Joe, as it's something that's used against them and has major ethical concerns, as blocking can also be legally enforced, which passes down to offspring. But more on that later. Part 2 is where Matt explains what he did for a career before ending up with Joe, and where we get introduced to the second major technology of this episode, the cookie. The cookie is a digital copy of one's consciousness, an advanced AI that is both self-aware and conscious on its own, and it was Matt's job to break the spirit of the AI so they could serve customers in controlling smart homes. It's a completely bespoke AI, as it's a direct copy of the individual. It knows exactly how you prefer to wake up, how you like your toast in the morning, and can even plan your itinerary. But once again, there's many ethical concerns here. Who are we to enslave something that is intelligent, self-aware, and conscious, especially with our very rudimentary understanding of consciousness to begin with? But more on that later. Part 3 is Joe's backstory and is the emotional framework of the episode, as it's about how the mix of the blocking feature, specifically the legal enforcement of said feature, and his obsession over who he believes is his daughter leads him to murder his ex's dad. And it's hard not to feel for Joe here, because while he's flawed, it's obvious that he's a man that wouldn't let anything get between him and his daughter. And that's commendable. He doesn't even seem like someone who's particularly vindictive and wants to hurt his ex despite what she's done to him. He just wants to see his daughter. So when he finds out that the child he's left gifts for, written multiple notes to, and loved from afar for years because he was convinced she was his child, it's understandable he's completely dumbfounded, and in a state of shock completely leads him to do the unthinkable. This episode feels so dense with 3 plot lines, 2 major technologies in play here, and I feel like I can make at least another video, if not 2 more, in depth on the story alone. But in this video, I want to mostly focus on the ethical concerns this episode introduces and the prevalence of blocking someone, because cancel culture feels like the precursor to this one day being our reality. To begin though, let's start with concerns regarding the cookie. AI has long been a part of science fiction for decades now, warning how we'll inevitably create our own successors, doomed to be either wiped out or enslaved once AI gains consciousness. But this episode takes a different turn, as humanity still has control while the cookie is sentient. But I think an important distinction here is that the AI, while being self-aware, doesn't believe it's AI at all, but rather a person. And by all means, who's to say it's not? I mean, it has no physical body, so in that sense, it's literally not a person, but it's sentient, self-aware, aware, intelligent, and has memories of real events. In every regard, it believes it's real, and I can't help but to think that if one day some kind of advanced life form showed up on Earth and said we weren't real and that we're just their 6th grade science project gone wrong, we'd adamantly disagree. I guess the question comes down to whether it's okay to enslave something if it believes it's real and conscious, whether it's AI or not. And I don't know if I even have a clear answer for this, as it feels like every other day we see new advances with ChatGPT, but no one seems to be willing to answer any of these uncomfortable questions. AI is here whether we like it or not, but should we not at least decide on some guidelines for protecting art, for protecting people in the case of massive job displacement? Because if AI does take off like every technocrat wants it to, it's not going to replace the people at the top, but rather the average Joe. Or in the case of this episode, if it thinks, therefore it is, should then the AI not have some sort of protections? I'm not even completely against the thought of all AI, but we need to be asking more questions on if we should, instead of being purely driven by if we can. Which brings me to blocking. The blocking feature in this episode feels especially dystopian to me, which it's a dystopian show, so like the wall is made out of wool. But what I mean is, when I watch this episode, the blocking feature feels like a complete step backwards and reminds me of cancel culture. Today, already, we're so quick to pass judgment on people on the internet we don't even know. We pick sides, dramatize it, and go after people's livelihoods and careers, most of the times without even sufficient evidence of any wrongdoings. Could you imagine if each and every one of us had the ability to completely block someone out of our lives like that? Instead of getting ghosted, you just get blocked. Instead of talking things out, you just get blocked. Instead of learning how to forgive, we just block. That sounds like a nightmare to me, and this isn't even a defense for anyone's bad actions, but I just believe people deserve to make mistakes and learn from them without being exiled. I mean, good people are great at making bad decisions, which I believe is the case for both Matt and Joe in this episode. I don't see them as bad people, but rather good people that made poor decisions, especially at the end when Matt gets completely blocked from everyone. This kind of blocking is the most extreme, as now everyone is unable to see or hear Matt, and he's marked in red, differentiating him from the standard gray block, completely exiling him from any human contact, never allowing him to ever fully reintegrate into society. And I get this is supposed to be an extension of sex offender registries, and I'm not going to get too deep into this because people get pretty emotional about this stuff, and it's a very complex issue, but studies have shown that these registries are not effective or helpful. I'll leave links in the description if you want to read more on this, but this is exactly what I mean when I say it feels like we're heading down a path we're actively trying to avoid. White Christmas is the antithesis of no good deed goes unpunished. Matt and Joe are two people with good intentions caught up in bad situations in a society that doesn't answer any ethical questions and cares little about forgiveness. And in many ways, I feel like we're living in a prequel version of this world already, with cancel culture running rampant and our unwillingness to make ethical choices regarding AI. I just hope, unlike Oedipus, we too don't end up fulfilling a prophecy we had plenty warning about. Hey, thanks for watching and happy holidays. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it and want to know your thoughts on White Christmas down below. If you subscribe to me for my video essays on animation, those aren't going anywhere, but I like to talk about anything that interests me. Let me know of any suggestions you want me to talk about down below as well, and until next time, peace.